Yo, it's your boy Casual Rel with the Silent A podcast. And man, we're back with another one. And a quick one at that. Yo, hit that like button. Helps us get eyes on the show. And more importantly, continue to subscribe. We appreciate that love. And for this, let's get into it. Inoue, the monster. Is he the most exciting fighter in boxing to date? And more importantly, is he the realest fighter in boxing today? We heard a lot of people going back and forth on this topic, and, we decided, we'll give our take, give our coverage, give our breakdown, and more importantly, leave the question out to you. Is Inoue the most exciting fighter? Is he one of the better fighters in boxing today? Is he one of the realest fighters in boxing today? Is he a face in boxing? Not the face, because I think we know who the face of boxing is, Mr. Canelo Alvarez, but and not even say just Canelo. There's other faces. There's plenty of faces of boxing. But is he a face, meaning Mr. Inoue the monster, is he a face in the sport of boxing? I had wrestled with this for a while, going back and forth, not obviously knowing too much about Mr. Inoue, at least last year or so. Doing more on him, researching him, watching his fights now, digging into him, digging into his history, digging into his background. Inoue is a problem. And a good one. He is a good problem for the sport of boxing. That's what I'm going to deem him as. A good problem for the sport of boxing. What do I mean by this? He's a problem because I think he's going to put other fighters on notice, especially talented fighters on notice, no matter the weight class. You normally see a talented fighter like Inoue take a few chances here and there, but more importantly, they'll stay on some type of diet. It used to be called the top rank diet a few years ago. They feed them certain opposition that you knew you was going to beat and get you into the big fight, get you into a championship fight, build your name, make the money, get the big purses until you ran into somebody real. On top of that, he's going to put them on notice by activity. I don't think I've seen a fighter of his caliber, of elite status caliber, fighting as often as this man has been fighting. And fighting the caliber of fighters he's been fighting in his weight class. I mean, he's fighting who is available. Yeah, he is a problem, a good problem, because he's going to challenge these other A-side fighters, his A-side talent, to finally step into the boxing ring and do what? Fight. And fight the real opposition. Fight the men who are in your weight class. Fight the top talent. Fight the top contenders. Win, lose, or draw. This brother is a problem. Inoue is a problem. That is my conclusion. That's what I've come to realize as watching his fights. I'm going to get a little bit more into that in a second. Watching his fights, but more importantly, watching who he is fighting. There's no ducking, no dodging, no back and forth on paperwork, no contract issues here and there. At first, I thought he was only fighting in Japan, but I was wrong about that. He's bouncing back and forth. He's fighting in the U.S. He's fighting wherever he can get what? A fight, a scrap. He is a good problem. A good damn problem to have in the sport of boxing. And it's something for these other sides to see that you need to challenge yourself and fight, and the greatness will come because he's making good money. He's getting the accolades, 2-time undisputed in different weight classes. It comes when you actually challenge yourself and believe in your skill set and don't worry about losing. Don't worry about that. Oh, yeah, Inoue is a good problem for the sport of boxing. He's also going to challenge them to what? Not only take the fights, take the names, but fight when you're actually there. Don't pull a Devin the Dream Haney, what he did against the likes of Jose Ramirez, moving around, footwork, quote unquote running. No, when you take the fight, you sign up, Let the hands fly. Let the skill set speak for itself. Yes, moving around and proper footwork is part of the boxing technique, part of the boxing history, part of the boxing game plan, but you can do too much of it, just like clinching. That's why there's rules against how much you can clinch. You can actually get a point taken away. And I believe the point should be taken away for too much footwork, too much moving. You got to let your hands fly because we came to see what? A fight. The fans paid to see you fight. But more importantly, you got into boxing to what? Throw hands. This is the sport of throwing hands. This is a combat sport of hands. And if you ain't throwing hands, you don't need to be in the sport of boxing. And Inoue, the monster, is challenging people about that. Yeah, he's been dropped, what, twice now? Just got dropped in his last fight. But why? Because he's taken the chances to entertain the fight fans, but more importantly, challenge himself and fight and have that warrior mentality in the ring. It's boxing. You're going to get hit. And just because you go down doesn't mean you don't have a chin. He gets back up every time and does what? Finishes his man. Takes out his opposition. Why? Because he believes in himself and he's got a heart of a warrior, heart of a champion. Yeah, he's been down, but that's what happens when you get hit. You're going to get hit. You got to do some punching in the sport of boxing. If you want your name to be known and name to be recognized. Yeah, Inoue is a problem in the sport of boxing because he's bringing it back to the old days where you fought, you take your lick, you win or you lose. Now, he's undefeated, obviously, and he's got all the accolades, but he can win or lose. He can get beat. And he probably will get beat at some point, fighting the way that he is, but that's okay because he's going to challenge himself, challenge all styles out there, fight all styles. And at the end of the day, he's going to go down as a Hall of Famer. He could stop right now and probably be a Hall of Fame fighter. And that's crazy to say because he's still so, in my personal opinion, so early in his career. He's got a lot to do. He's got a lot left to offer. When you have other fighters that's been around for over a decade and never touched the accolades that he has, but they're A-side fighters. Making a little money, but they don't have the accolades. Name will not be remembered. If you ever watched Troy, when Achilles looked down at the kid and said, that's why your name will never be remembered. Or better yet, that's why no one will ever remember your name because you don't challenge yourself. You're too scared to get hit, too scared to fight, too scared to take on the big names. That man right there, Inoue the Monster, is a problem, which leads back to our question earlier that we challenged you with. Is he the most exciting fighter? Yes. When you combine those two aspects of being a problem, a good problem for the sport of boxing, taking on the top contenders and fighting when he's in the ring, yes, he is one of the most exciting fighters in the sport of boxing. I think there's some other names, obviously, they're with him. You know, you got the likes of Canelo Alvarez, who usually comes out with big fanfare, gets it going. I think David Benavidez is another fighter that doesn't care. He gets in there and throws hands. He's not as big as these names right now, but he's getting there. There's other guys out there, I think, that are starting to challenge and starting to see what the likes of Inoue is doing, see what the likes of Canelo Alvarez is doing, see what the likes of Terrence Buck Crawford is doing, and accolades and getting their names known by taking on the fights that they can get. And some people argue about Terrence Crawford because, you know, his inactivity is a little bit, you know, once a year or so. But they're still challenging themselves, still taking on these big names, still taking on these big challenges, right? And win, lose, or draw, their names will be remembered. Their names are growing. The money is still there. Forget about the O and worry about the fight. Is Inoue one of the most exciting? Yes. And I think he'll be potentially one of the bigger faces of boxing. I think he is a face now. But I think he'll be one of the bigger faces of boxing soon. Keep growing the way that he's growing. And just keep doing what you're doing. And more importantly, keep challenging those A-side talents to step their game up. Either way, we talked too long on this. Let us know what you think. Hit that like button, comment below, and as always, subscribe if you got the time. We appreciate that love. Until the next time. Peace.